The story begins before there was earth or form or even matter, when there was only God, the perfect being. Before the beginning, God existed in perfect relationship with Himself through the Son and the Spirit, but He wanted more. When God created mankind, He set into motion a plan that could not be stopped. Not that Satan didn't try. We are all familiar with Apple's iconic logo, the bitten fruit. Well, that image perfectly captures Satan's scheme to stop God's plan before it had already begun. God created mankind and told them that if they ate fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they would die. Well, along came a serpent who twisted God's word and assured Eve that she wouldn't die. In fact, she would become like God if she ate the fruit of that tree. 2 iProduct logos and a couple of excuses later, Adam and Eve discovered that God did not, in fact, lie about anything. Worse, He now had to execute judgment for their sin. Satan knew God. He knew that God was just and could not let Adam and Eve go unpunished. God's plan relied on Adam and Eve being alive and able to multiply so God's image bearers could fill the earth. And Satan had created a situation where God either had to go against His own nature, something that is impossible, or execute the death sentence, effectively ending humankind before they ever had a chance to fulfill their purpose. I imagine Satan was rubbing his serpently little hands together while he still had them as he saw God's plan just falling apart. Unfortunately, for Satan that is, God's plan could not be stopped. He allowed Adam and Eve to live through a substitutionary sacrifice, the animal He killed to clothe them, and sent Adam and Eve out of the garden to multiply and fill the earth as they were always meant to, though they now lived in the shadow of sin. Additionally, God made a promise to the serpent that He would put enmity between you and the woman and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head and you will strike his heel. While Satan thought he had stopped God's plan, all he'd really done was put a kink in it, a kink that God had already prepared for. It took mankind 2,000 years to be ready for God to fix that kink and redeem mankind. It is finished. Jesus' last words before His death marks the final punctuation for this particular story. Though it would take another 3 days for the redemption arc to come to a complete close, sin's hold over mankind was finally snapped, and God had given us a way out of our fallen existence. Righteousness was once more available to those who believed, and God's plan had only to march forward on the shoulders of His church until the close of the age. Thanks again for watching these videos. We truly appreciate your time with us and encourage you to invite others to your cell group. Now, let's get into some questions for this chapter. In your own words, describe what "it is finished" means. In light of the worries and concerns you have in life right now, how does an understanding of the statement, "God's plan cannot be stopped," impact you? For our last question, I want you to consider this. Although sin has been conquered on the cross, it's the church's job to bring God's plan to full closure. In light of the Great Commission in Matthew 28:19-20, what are 2 things you can start doing this week to advance God's plan?